Well, COVID cases in Monroe County are on the rise, causing some concern as the new school year has yet to begin for most. 13 WHAM's Andrew Macbeth joining us now. He checked with the health department today about those new cases and also the next round of COVID boosters. Andrew?
Yes, Don, Monroe County is currently monitoring the newest substrand of the Omicron COVID variant as it spreads across our area. This just days before the newest COVID booster becomes available. As area college students are moving in and younger students are returning to the classroom next week, cases of a new COVID Omicron subvariant are on the rise locally. 19 new cases have been reported in Monroe County just today, though the county states it is impossible to get an exact number.
They underestimate the true positivity rates because there's a lot of people that are home testing and and may test positive, and so all of those tests do not get reported.
According to Dr. Emil Lesho, between 30 and 35 COVID patients have been admitted to Rochester area hospitals. The CDC website currently indicates Monroe County's hospital admission as low. To combat a potential increase in COVID cases, Health Commissioner Dr. Michael Mendoza emphasizes that people continue to stay aware despite COVID fatigue.
I think the general public is tired of hearing about COVID, but the reality is that we don't have the luxury of just assuming that it's gone. We can't bury our heads in the sand and just, pretend like it's not an issue. It is an issue.
New variants and spikes are expected at this point, and New York State is preparing for a potential increase. The governor's office says the newest overseas variant, BA.286, is currently being studied in Albany, and medical experts stress the importance of staying safe.
So we just want people to be reminded that if you want to wear a mask and you feel that you're at particularly higher risk from either contracting or transmitting the infection, to consider wearing a mask.
And updated COVID booster shots are set to arrive in mid to late September.
More than 3,000 cars have been stolen in the city of Rochester this year alone. Those are the latest numbers out today. The Monroe County Stolen Vehicle Task Force has recovered 11 of them since July. 13 WHAM's Chase Howell explains what areas thieves have been targeting and who are stealing these vehicles. Chase, good evening.
Yeah, Matt, one of the task force investigators telling me many of the cars stolen are getting taken from the west side around the Lake Avenue area. As far as who's stealing them, they say it's mainly teenagers. It's a sound and scene we're seeing far too often. Just this year alone, Rochester police say more than 3,000 cars have been stolen in the city.
Some of them are inoperable, and some we've gotten back where it's just, hey, just give them right back to the owner and we're good.
In July, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office launched its multi-agency stolen car task force. Since then, MCSO says there have been 42 arrests.
It can be very dangerous, obviously, pursuing these kids, but we want to not do that at the expense of the community. If it becomes too dangerous and we have to kind of step off, we'll catch them next time.
Not only have there been dozens of arrests, but MCSO says it's given out over 100 traffic citations and recovered 11 stolen vehicles.
I think if this detail were running 24/7, those numbers would be astronomical that we're putting out. But we've ran this detail 6 times in the last 2 months, so we're averaging, 2 stolen vehicles per shift. I think anyone would probably take those numbers.
Both Lieutenant Watson and Investigator Coco says it's mainly juveniles behind the wheel of these stolen vehicles.
I've had parents, beg me to put their kids in jail, that they asked for help, and we're finally able to give it to them. Because they're scared for their kids, and they know sometimes the best place for them is detention, where they know they're safe.
And continuing about that soundbite, Matt, Investigator Coco says that's the general response he's getting from the parents. He also says the detail will continue for the foreseeable future.
The Child Victims Act extended the statute of limitations for survivors of child sexual abuse. That resulted in more than 10,000 cases being filed here in New York State. Tonight, 13 WHAM's Jackie Napier tells us about a new proposal that could offer financial help for some school districts who are dealing with those lawsuits.
Kara Yellen graduated from Brighton High School in 1990. She says it took her decades to process the sexual abuse she suffered at the hands of a former teacher. In 2020, Tara filed a lawsuit against the district under the Child Victims Act, or CVA.
Again, it's not just about the money, but money does have a lot of power in our society, and it sends a major message about what is okay, what is not okay, and what is going to be okay in the future. I mean, it validated the struggle that I had for decades.
A proposed state Senate bill aims to create the Child Victims Act Fund, designed to provide reimbursement to public school districts or foster care agencies. Those grants would be allocated in cases where it can be demonstrated that a CVA settlement would impose a substantial financial burden.
We've seen that where insurance companies have denied coverage for these kinds of events, and school districts are without insurance at all. So we think this is a really positive step for people in that circumstance.
Dr. Rick Timms, director of the statewide School Finance Consortium, says there also has to be justice for the students that occupy these schools right now. As such, Timms believes the state ought to support the financial claims against school districts. A state senator endorsing the bill says the proposed $200 million fund could also assist victims.
That it would help victims that got a settlement against an organization or an entity that doesn't have the ability to pay. Well, this creates a fund in order to ensure that our school districts and foster care organizations essentially don't go bankrupt over this.
Jackie Napier, 13 WHAM News.
As Jackie tells us, Governor Hochul will review all legislation once it passes both houses of the legislature. If passed, the fund could be part of next year's state budget.